Hello everyone. We are going to talk about proving triangles congruent. You already watched that video that gave you a really good visualization of what the 5 ways to prove triangles congruent looks like. So now we're going to drill down a little bit more and see actual problems that they're going to ask. It's really more examples. So remember, congruence is you have figures that are exact shape and size. That's what it means to be congruent. Next week we'll talk about similar, well you'll see that changes, but congruent, same size, same shape. All right, one thing, vocab term, and I think you briefly mentioned in that video that you want to make sure you know of because you will see it, CPCTC. Okay, that's our little way to remember it. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent, which is kind of almost common sense. If you're going to say that the two triangles are congruent, then the parts that match each other are going to be congruent. But you want to be able to make sure that you pair the parts correctly. Remember, you have 3 sides and 3 angles, so you'll have 3 pairs of congruent parts. So let's see how this works. Now, notice they were nice enough to give me a picture of my 2 triangles so I could use that to visually match everything. I'm going to show you a faster way using this right here. This is called the congruence statement. Okay. Congruent statement, and it tells you that the 2 triangles are congruent. Triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. And you don't even need the pictures to match up your parts, which is awesome, because sometimes the pictures can be confusing, especially if they've, like he said, changed the orientation, like rotated it weird or flipped it. Sometimes they flip and rotate. So here's how you use just your congruent statement to find your missing parts. So the first one says segment AB is congruent to, so it's a side. They want to know what side segment AB is congruent to. Again, you could do it with the picture, but sometimes it's not as easy as you think. So I'm going to use this. Segment AB. Here's A, here's B. You just have to look in the second part of your statement here, and A is first, B is second. Come over here. What's first? D, what's second? E. That's your answer. So segment AB is congruent to segment DE. Didn't even need the picture. Now, what about segment BC? Segment BC, it's the second and third letter. Okay. So what is it going to match with in the second one? The second and third. So segment BC is congruent to segment EF. And some people are like, well, does it really matter? It does. You have to make sure that you match up your parts correctly. Okay, and again, sometimes with a picture, that's not always easy to see, but you can always match your parts up using your congruent statement. All right, the last one they want is segment AC, so that is the first letter, okay, and the third letter. So then you come over here and go first and third, DF, and that's your answer, segment DF. You do the same thing with your angles. Okay. Sometimes they will use 3 letters to name your angles. Here they're only using 1. So you just follow the order. Angle A. Angle A is first. Angle A matches up with angle D. What would angle B match up with? B matches up with, it's the second letter. What's the second letter over here? Angle E. And so angle C matches up with angle F. So use your congruent statement. It's a lot easier than looking at the picture, because again, they try to trick you on the picture if they give it to you sometimes. Okay, congruence statement is your best friend. All right, talked about these already, but here are the 5 ways to prove triangles congruent. Make sure you memorize them. Okay, you need to know them. The 5 ways to prove triangles congruent. Side, 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 angle, side, angle, angle, side, angle, angle, side, HL. Remember, HL only goes with what kind of triangles? Right triangles only. How do you know it's a right triangle? They'll put the box, or they'll tell you. Also, please remember, side angle, which if you reverse that, is a slightly inappropriate word, not a way. Angle, angle, angle. Also, not one of the ways to prove lines parallel. All right, so let's look at some actual examples, because they really didn't do this in that other video. So let's look at the first set of triangles. They want to know if these are congruent, and if they are congruent, which one of the 5 ways did you use? So you just got to look. Hey, this tick mark right here means that this side is congruent to this side because they have matching tick marks. So that's a pair of sides, because remember they have to match. They come in pairs. Then I look and say, hey, look, this right here says this angle is congruent to this angle. So there's a pair of congruent angles. And last but not least, I got the double tick. Okay. That is another pair of sides. So are my triangles congruent? Okay, yes. And why are they congruent? Okay, you want to say yes. By side angle side, SAS. All right, let's look at the next one. Take a look. Oh, got an angle. Does it have a match? Yep, so those 2 angles are congruent. There's my first angle pair. Then I move along. 1 tick mark, 1 tick mark. That's marking pair of congruent sides. And last but not least, I run into another angle. Has 2 tick marks. Make sure it has a match. It does. There's another pair of congruent angles. So, are your triangles congruent? Yep. By angle, side, angle. Okay, always start like here or here. Do not start with the side because it's in between your 2 angles, so that is not a good starting point. All right, it will give you a weird combination of letters. Let's look at this one. Again, let's mark what I know. So I'm going to start here. There's a side. Does it have a matching side? Yes. There's a pair of congruent sides. Again, the tick marks tell you they're congruent to each other. Then I got an angle. Got a match. And I also see this right here has a match right here. That's another pair of congruent sides. Now, some people are going to be tempted to say, yes, they're congruent, okay, and write down one of the tests. But remember, they have to come one right after the other. There's no gaps. So what do I mean? I mean, I can't go start here, go up to angle, okay, and then come around to here and say that these are congruent by side, angle, side. You've got too many gaps, okay? Side, angle, that's okay, but if you want to say side, angle, side, then this side right here would have to be the side that's congruent to the other side in the triangle, and it's not. Okay. There can't be gaps, and I mean side, angle, you skip a side right here, then you also bypass this angle right here. Okay, so you've bypassed 2 parts. Okay, that's not the order you want to go in, because that's something that some people do struggle with. So how do I do it? Okay, again, you want to start either here and walk this way, and I say walk, or you can start at the A, then you hit the S, and then the other S. One of the 2. Okay, notice I didn't start with my green side because that's in between a side and an angle. But either way you do it, you got SSA, or, inappropriate. Is that one of your 5 ways? Nope. Okay, so these are actually not congruent. It has to be one of your 5 ways. All right, you try this one. Only going to give you like 30 seconds. Not even going to put the timer on. So try it. Mark it. See if you have it. Tell me if they're congruent. If you say yes, tell me why. All right, let's take a look at this. So I have one pair of sides, and some of you are going to say, well, that has more than one that you can match with, and just match it with one and move on. So there's a pair of congruent sides. One tick mark, it's got to match. So that's another pair of congruent sides. And then the bottom, does it have match? Yes. So are my triangles congruent? Yes. And they are congruent how? What's my reasoning? Side, side, side. Good. Excuse me. All right. In the essence of time, I'm not going to do the rest of these. It's more of the same. You could try them if you want. Up to you. But I do want to do this one in the middle. Okay, so if you're taking notes, you might want to just draw this picture. It's not gorgeous, obviously. I did want to show you this. All right, so I have right triangles. How do I know that they're right triangles? Yep, these little boxes right here. Okay. As soon as you see those, you want to try HL. Okay. Just try it. Not always going to work. Okay. If it doesn't work, then you try the other four. See if the other four work. But always, as soon as you see these boxes to indicate you have right triangles, try HL. Okay. There's also another little trick here that we need to talk about, and we'll do a couple more examples in a second. But right triangle, okay, now remember in a right triangle you have some parts. So again, you might want to jot this down somewhere. In a right triangle, okay, your two shorter sides have special names because right triangles are special. They don't call them sides, they call them legs. So this side right here is a leg. Easy way to remember is if they make an L, the L shape, whether it's forward or backwards, then it's a leg. Okay. They're your two shorter sides. Your hypotenuse is always your longest side, and it's always directly across from your right angle. Because that's important you know where these are located. So your legs are your two shorter sides. Okay, they make an L. And your hypotenuse is directly across from your right angle. So let's look at this picture that I have here. The thing that I have marked with the two red tick marks, okay, talking about this side here and this side here. So you know they match. So you know you have a pair of sides. But remember, we call them hypotenuse or leg. So we have to decide, is it the hypotenuse or is it the leg? Looking, okay, they are directly across from my right angle. So that is a pair of congruent hypotenuses. So H. Now, for HL, the nice thing about HL is you only need two parts instead of three like the rest. Here's the thing that you have to pay attention to. And we'll do a couple more examples in just a second. This right here, that I just marked in blue, this side is in both triangles. If it's in both triangles, we can use the reflexive property and say that it's congruent to itself, which is super weird. But if they share a side, okay, you can mark it congruent, okay, because it's going to be congruent to itself, and so that counts. So this is a leg, and then if I look at it as the side of the other triangle, it is also a leg. So this one, it would be a yes by HL. Now again, if you did it and you didn't come up with HL, okay, maybe they had leg. They had this two legs. Okay. Leg is not a way. So you would then try side, angle, sides, side, 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 angle, angle, side, or angle, side, angle. Okay, but always try HL first. All right. This is another thing you want to pay attention to because you are going to run into this a lot and it throws people off and they get them wrong. Two triangles, they're side by side. Hopefully you notice, hey, look, they have a shared side. If they have a shared side, you need to mark it congruent to itself. Again, that's called using the reflexive property. Now you can go through and see, hey, what do I got? Well, I got this and this. There's a pair of sides. Then I also have this and this. That's a pair of angles. And because I marked this side that they share, you have to mark it. They're not going to mark this for you. then I have another pair of congruent sides. So yes, these triangles are congruent by side angle side, but if you did not mark that shared side, you'd get it wrong. You would tell me, no, there's not enough information. So if you see they share a side, please mark it. Same thing for this one. Okay. If you just chugged along, you would have gone, hey, there's a pair of sides. Excuse me. My asthma is not happy today. And you'd also go, here's another pair of congruent sides. And then some of you would tell me they're not congruent because that's all you have. Remember I told you vertical angles would come back to haunt you? You have vertical angles in this picture. You, yourself, need to mark them. They will not do this for you. And if you don't do it, you're going to get this one wrong. So you mark them and you go, yep, vertical angles are congruent. So there's a pair of congruent angles. And so now my triangles actually are congruent by side angle side. Mark those vertical angles, kids. Okay, again, looking at this one, I would say no, because I would say initially, I got a pair of sides. I got another pair of sides. I don't have a side-side. A side-side is not a test. But mark your verticals. Vertical angles always and have always been and will continue to always be congruent. Now you have side angle side. So you have to scan your picture out. If you see a shared side or vertical angles, mark them before you make any decisions about your triangles being congruent. So in other words here, I'm like, oh, this side is in both of my triangles. So I'm going to say it's congruent to itself. When I mark it like that, I don't use the same markings that I already see on my picture. Excuse me. Okay, I use different markings, okay, so I don't confuse myself. So I marked it. Now I know since it's in both triangles, I can mark it as a pair of sides. Then I go, okay, here's another pair of sides. Looking good so far. And here's a pair of angles that are congruent. Now, again, never start with the green, what I have marked in green, because that is in the middle of an angle and a side. So you don't want to start there to try and write down your test. You either want to start with your angle, okay, or start with the side I have marked in blue and go that way. So if I start here on the side marked in blue, then I'm going to do side, side, angle. Okay, and again, I could have done it here, side, side, angle. Okay, notice I'm not starting in the middle with the side. So side, side, angle. Because even though I marked the second side, 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 angle, is that one of our ways to prove triangles congruent? No, so please don't write it, okay? Because some people write it and then go on, because if you write it, you're telling me that's why you think they're congruent. So this is no, the triangles are not congruent. Okay. This is more just informational purposes for myself. Don't write that as your final answer, or cross it out and say no, not congruent. All right, last little piece that you will see, because you are going to see some problems like this when you get to the practice and or the assessment. So I wanted to do one or two so you could see it happening, because some people get stuck on these. Indicate the additional information to enable us to apply the specified congruence postulate. So they're telling you how they want your picture to look. They want your two triangles to be congruent by angle, side, angle. So the first thing you want to do is come to your picture and mark what they've already told you. So, or what's already marked on your picture. So they've given me a pair of angles, and they have also given me the included side. And remember, included just means in between. And how do I know it's in between? Because they want angle, side, angle, and the S is in between the two angles. That's your included side. So I mark them, and then I come over here. This is what I do, because it helps me. I go, okay, I have a pair of angles that are already congruent marked, and I have a pair of sides. So the only thing that I'm missing is another pair of angles. Okay, I want it to be angle, side, angle, and I want the side to be in between the two angles, so you only have one option. It's this right here and this right here. Okay, because I want it to be angle, side, angle. You wouldn't want to do A and F, because A and F would give you angle, angle, side. Okay, it would put the side off to the back, and you want the side in between the two angles. So what are you actually going to write over here? What are they asking? Indicate the additional information. They want you to say, I need angle B marked congruent to angle D. Then I will have angle, side, angle. So let's try another one, just so, again, you see this. I'm going to just erase what I wrote in blue, because the two pieces they have given me are not changing. What they're wanting me to use is, now they want side, angle, side. Okay, so again, I look at my picture and I figure out, what part am I missing? Well, I have a pair of sides that are already marked congruent, and I have a pair of angles that are already marked congruent. So now I know that I'm just looking for another pair of sides. So I come back to my picture, okay, and I pay attention to its side, angle, side. So the angle needs to be in between my two sides. Okay. Why? Because it's SAS, and that's where the angle is. So in order for that to happen, I need this side to be congruent to this side, so that my angle is in between my two sides. So again, what do they want us to write over here? They actually want you to write what needs to be marked congruent. So segment AC needs to be congruent to segment, what is that, FE. Okay. And I did that by actually using my picture and marking what I need to get the side, angle, side. All right, one more. Oh, no, don't want to do that. Come back, eraser. Totally kicked myself out. Okay. So I'm going to erase that. Now, last test that they want me to use, angle, angle, side. So again, mark what you already have. I have an angle, and I have a mark angle, and I have a side. So I need another pair of angles. Okay, I need it to be an angle, then followed by another angle, and then the side hanging to the off. It's not included. So I come over to my picture. Here's my angle. Here's my side. So I need the angle. I need the two angles to be next to each other. Okay, I can't put it up here for B, because if I mark it here, I look real quick. Angles are not next to each other. There's a side in between them. Okay, and so that wouldn't be right. That would be ASA. So nope. Okay, nice thing is I only have one other option, angle A. Now, and you can see it if it flows. If I put this angle, angle, side, got it. It's the way they're asking me. So again, over here, tell them what you need to mark congruent for this to show up. You need angle F congruent to angle A. And you can always check yourself. Mark your picture and make sure you get angle, angle, side. Okay, if you accidentally marked it wrong and you look back at your picture and you marked it, and then you realize, oh, I need to fix that. So make sure that you guys go back over this, know your 5 ways to prove triangles congruent, As always, if you get stuck, need help, please let me know. I'm here to help. All right. Thank you.